is a very special guest. Lee Aaron is an international recording artist, producer, and mother, and she's here today to talk about her successful music career and her new album. Welcome to the show, and that's the song. Here we go.
The hockey organ. That's a very Canadian sort of vibe to the whole interview. I love it.
We're at the BC Sports Hall of Fame. So when did your passion begin for music, and were there any biggest, influencers?
Well, my passion for music started when I was very young. My mother was a singer. She never did anything really professional, but she was always involved in church choirs when I was young, and she sang to us all the time when we were children. So from a very young age, I just knew that I wanted to be a singer. I can only tell you these childhood stories. They're my mother's memories, not necessarily my own, but she said when I was 5 years old, I came home from kindergarten, we were all doing a little Christmas concert, and I came home and I said, I want to sing I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus, because she always sang it to us when we were children, and she was concerned because she said I practiced and practiced and practiced, and I was just pretty awful. And then when I actually got up in front of people at the Christmas recital, she said I was actually fabulous. She was very surprised. And then that led to, a couple of years later, I was in elementary school, and they were casting a production of Heidi. I think I was only about 7 years old, and there was a little girl in my class that looked just like Shirley Temple. So she got the role, but she couldn't sing. So the teacher had me stand behind a scrim, believe it or not, and sing all the songs because she knew that I had a voice. And this little girl was out front, mouthing all the words to the songs. And at the very end of the production, and of course, besides that, I had like a little chorus role part, in the background. The end of the production, the teacher never announced me as being, a notable part of the production, and I was crushed. I started crying. I ran out into the audience. I leapt into my father's lap, and my father was pretty upset. He tore a strip off the teacher, and from that point forward, I was like, I'm never standing behind a scrim to sing anymore. And so it was sort of like a childhood thing, and it just, I think, made me determined to be an artist. I don't know.
But you have that natural talent, really. It was meant to be a singer. And when did you first know this is what I want to do? Okay. Did you join a band? Or
when I was 15 years old, I was involved in a musical theater production as a youth in high school. And the bass player from a local band saw me because his brother was in the background of the production and asked me to come and audition for a local band, which I did. And they had a few singers audition, but I guess I was the one that had the best voice. And they were a bit like, we weren't thinking we were going to have a girl in the band, but to go on and add to more what you said, I think I had a passion for wanting to do it from a young age, and whether I actually had an actual natural gifting, that's a whole other story. I really feel that years and years and years of practice and putting in those 10,000 hours, like there's that, the theory behind that's actually helped me become really great at the craft. And there's definitely something to do, just like with running, right? You need to put in the time to develop your skill, and I think that's really important for young people to know.
You have the talent, but you have to, develop the talent. Work at it. Practice.
Yes, working at it is very important, as well as with songwriting as well. I feel that I didn't start out as a real gifted songwriter. I think I became a much better songwriter over the years of just writing hundreds and hundreds of songs, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So your parents were very supportive of you becoming a professional singer.
Yes and no. My father, I think, probably more supportive. My mother was a traditional woman of that era, and so her thing was, you've got to get married, and you've got to, she wanted grandchildren, and that didn't happen for me until I was older, but it did happen eventually, which is a wonderful thing, and another wonderful element of my life. But so she was just concerned about, for me, long-term happiness, right? But in the end, I have to say I'm very, very fortunate that I've got both in my life. Right?
It's wonderful, and so you have 11 albums, is that right? Because you have 35 years, right?
Well, the album that I just put out actually is my 14th album. That includes a couple of best of releases as well. But yeah, so that it's about an average of every 2 years putting out an album. Although there was a fairly large gap when I had my children. In 2000, I had put out an album, actually, Beautiful Things, in 2004, and I was pregnant with my daughter, and I toured across Canada, which was crazy. My last show was in Newfoundland, and I got on a plane 6 months pregnant and flew from Newfoundland back to Vancouver. And when I landed, I couldn't get my feet back into my shoes; they were so swollen. So I was walking through the airport carrying my boots, and then at that point, I had this crazy idea that I would just have a baby, and that it would be sort of like a blip, and then I could just, continue my professional life with my baby, and I would take her on the road. And we ended up with a little baby that screamed every time we put her in a car seat, like to drive to Safeway. And I was like, so this whole idea of like taking her on road trips and on an airplane, I have to rethink this fairly seriously. So I ended up taking actually about a decade off to have our children. But well worth it, and I'm really happy that I did in the end. So.
Congratulations. An important role being a mother.
Oh, the most important role. But I think I had to grow into that as well, because I'd been so very career focused my whole life. And then I had this little baby that was just like, that's it. That becomes your world. Your world gets kind of small for a while. But in the most beautiful way. I can say that.
Yes. And your first album was the Lee Aaron Project, is that
That's
right?
correct, yeah.
Okay. So that's where it went upwards, right? And then you got popular hits in the 80s and 90s, right? And so who are your fans? That's a difficult question too, because I would say, if I had to say, the majority of my fans these days are probably between 35 and 60. That sort of demographic, like an older demographic, people that want to have a nice evening out, go to maybe a casino showroom. They don't want to go to nightclubs anymore, grungy nightclubs. They want to go to a really nice venue with soft seats and see you and be able to have a cocktail and dinner. And if they have, imbibe a little too much, I get a beautiful hotel room and stay overnight. Or, so it's an older demographic. But with that said, just a few days ago, I played an arena in Alberta, and I had, kids coming up to the merchandise table wanting autographs. And so, or fathers and sons, or mums and daughters. And so, I find that I get a lot of people like 45 that are bringing their 22-year-old to come and see the show, and they all like Lee Aaron. And so I think for me as an artist now, to have music that has the ability to transcend generations like that, what an amazing thing. I mean, it's just it's a compliment, and
it's just inspiring for me,
So you went like rock music, right, to jazz.
Yes.
Right? And that's like, how did you make that transition? Like, how did that come about?
Well, contrary to what people traditionally would think, I mean, a lot of people think that hard rock and jazz and blues music is diametrically opposed. It's not. The early rock and roll, like some of the influences that I had growing up, like Joplin and Led Zeppelin, these early bands, I mean, these were guys that basically grew up listening to jazz and blues. Led Zeppelin, their first couple of albums, I mean, they just took a lot of those blues songs, but they plugged their guitars in and turned them up to 10. So that's essentially what early rock and roll was these blues masters using electric instruments. And I had this passion at a certain point. I mean, what ended up basically happening was in the 90s, grunge came along and kind of decimated the careers of a lot of classic rock artists like myself. We went through a phase of falling out of favor. I mean, and it wasn't me, it was many, many artists experienced that very same thing. And so I took a year off and I reevaluated, and I thought, well, I'm going to go back and explore the roots of rock and roll and do some stuff I'm passionate about. I'm going to go back and start looking at because I sang a lot of this music in the early part of my life, doing theater music as well. And so I just started out playing a few small nightclubs in the Lower Mainland, never expecting it to kind of take off. And the next thing you knew, the Sun was out, writing a review, and then people were saying, you got to do an album of this kind of material. And then I ended up making a couple of jazz and blues records around the turn of the millennium as well.
Like Slick Chick?
Slick Chick and
Yes.
Beautiful Things was more of a pop-infused
Yes.
jazz record. So, yeah.
You're so inspirational. I mean, you are paving the way for music artists. So how does that make you feel? Like, you're just, you're, as I said, you're inspirational. How does it make you feel that, you're helping?
Well, if I'm going to be inspirational, or if people think of me that way, I certainly hope that I have been able to be inspirational for just women in general to feel that they can follow their passions. They don't have to have traditional roles in their life. That you can do what you want to do. And I mean, I've never had a career, say, like Madonna. Like, I'm not a mega rich, huge star, but I've always followed my muse and taken things to another creative level. And I feel like I have a much more personal and artistic satisfaction doing that. My daughter gave me a day planner for my birthday, which was a couple of days ago. And it said, the quote on the planner, it's like funny because you have a 14-year-old and they're just rebelling against everything that is you. The teenage girls go through this phase where they want to be anything but their mother. But the quote on the front of this day planner that she gave me said, some women fear the fire and some women simply become it. And I just went, isn't that beautiful?
Yeah,
and I just went, thank you, God, I'm doing something right here, because if I can instill anything in my own children, that's what I want to instill in them, is that I want them to be happy because they follow their passions.
Yes, and was it Tomboy?
Your
daughter. Tell us about that. What was that like, having your daughter and her friends involved in the music video?
It was amazing. And in fact, my most recent video also has my daughter, but I can tell you about that after.
Yes.
Tomboy was a song, she had come to me when I was writing Fire and Gasoline. She said, Mom, will you write a song for me? And I'm like, sure. And a couple days later, I'm realizing, well, she's 10. At the time, she was 10 when I was writing that album. I'm like, well, I guess I actually have to do this. And at that time, she is a really wonderful young lady. She's very independent. She, again, very much, she's not a skirt wearer. She's very, has her own path that she's walking. And she's been like that since she was a young girl. And so just writing that song it just very much encapsulated who she was, but also who I was, because I think you get to an age in your life after you've gotten through your awkward 20s and 30s and where you've had your children and you kind of are like, this is who I am, imperfect as I am, and I don't care, take me you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I felt like in a weird way we were kind of at the same place. And so it was my idea to have she goes to a fine arts school, and some of her friends from that program, and they were just like, they'd never played instruments before, but they're like, we'll play air instruments. They stepped up to the challenge and put them in the video, and I just thought it was, they really rose to the occasion. I thought it was wonderful.
'Cause I'm a tomboy. Yeah, I'm the tomboy. 'Cause I'm a tomboy. You should be free to be exactly who you are, boy. I like to spin my vinyl, give me old school rock.
My most recent video is for a song called American High. It's from the Diamond Baby album, and actually our daughter plays Amelia Earhart. So we included some iconic American figures into the video. Elvis, Amelia Earhart, Abe Lincoln, and the Lady Liberty. My very good girlfriend, who's also the photographer for the Diamond Baby Blues album. She's a wonderful photographer. Her daughter's in it, my daughter's in it. My son played Abe Lincoln. He's a little more of a steampunk Abe Lincoln because he really wasn't old enough looking, but yeah, I just think for me, music, I like to be able to, if I'm going to leave my children a legacy, I want to leave them the legacy that music is just this wonderful family affair, you know, and you know, they're used to seeing musicians come in and out of our house, and you know, the musicians in my band are family people too. I mean, my guitar player has a family, my bass player has a son and a family, and you know, that this can be kind of integrated. Can be a normal part of life, and so including them in our creative projects, it's fun. It's fun to do that, right?
It's a good time to get high. My American high. Don't cry, say bye-bye. Bye-bye, American high. It's a good time to get high. My American high. Don't cry, say bye-bye. Bye-bye, American high.
To tour together, right? So that's wonderful. And I want to say congratulations on your Diamond Baby Blues album. That just came out in May, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so in
Just a couple months ago.
Yeah, so tell us more about that. Like there's 12 songs on it, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's 12 songs on Diamond Baby Blues, and it sort of takes where we were at with Fire and Gasoline and takes it even a little further in the rock blues direction. I did some covers that I'd always wanted to do. I covered You're No Good by Linda Ronstadt.
Oh, wow.
I know. It's just, that, as a kid growing up in the 70s, like all of that music was so Elton John, Linda Ronstadt, you know,
Yes.
was very inspirational for me. So we did a few covers that we really wanted to do on the album, and we wrote the originals stylistically in the same style of that. And so far the response to the album and the videos has been fantastic, so I'm really excited about it.
So what do you like most about performing?
What I like most about performing is, well, I mean, the opportunity to actually do the craft. That's what you live for, right? But when you see people singing along with the words and you see people dancing to your music, I don't know how to explain. When you've written a piece of music that resonates with people, it's sort of like this spiritual connection. It's transcendent, and that's just a wonderful thing. I don't even know how to describe it. Yeah.
35 years. I mean, can you believe it though?
No. No, actually.
You know, I've watched your videos when I was growing up, and you've evolved, and your fans have evolved as well. And
I think
it's
so,
just
yeah.
it's wonderful to see that. And so, what's next for you?
Well, we've just started the tour. We were out last week. In a couple of days, actually, I fly to Montreal, and we're doing Heavy Montreal. It's one of
what's
the
that like? Oh my
it's
goodness!
the biggest like rock festival in Montreal, so I'm very excited about that. But it's going to be crazy because apparently there's 3 main stages, and everybody plays like 45 minutes, and the audience just goes, okay, they're done, and then they turn to that stage, and then they play, and so we fly to Montreal, then we fly to Europe, and we're playing Germany and Sweden this summer. Then I fly back home, and I'm actually doing a date in Vancouver on August 17th. Rock Ambleside, be there. Okay. It's going to be a great show. We play on the 17th, I think 6 o'clock at night. So that's an announcement that I wanted to make. But we're back in Alberta. I'm in Saskatoon. I can't even, leearon.com. If you go to the website, you can see all the tour dates. So
That's wonderful.
it's exciting, yes.
And then check out your music there, and then your social media.
Or Lee Aaron Music, Lee Aaron Music on Instagram. Just come and find me. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, and I would like you to come back.
I would love to come back. That'd be awesome.
Talk more. And,
Yes.
We'll be right back after this break.
Was a fast romance, just a lot of childish innocence. I found myself falling under your spell when the music swelled. We started the dance.
Thanks for watching The Closing Act. If you have a question or comment about the show, go to our website. For past episodes, go to the Closing Act website, and we'll see you next time.
The Closing Act is proud to be sponsored by Steamworks Brewing Company.